everybody, it's Pink Techie here, and today's video is going to be about the Sega Dreamcast. It's not going to be about how revolutionary this system was and how ahead of its time it was. Instead, we're going to talk about a common problem the Sega Dreamcast has. And also, my Sega Dreamcast started to have the same issue. It is the dreaded restart issue. Sega Dreamcast occasionally will restart not too long after starting. It's like a power surge kind of issue is the easiest way to describe it without getting too technical. But basically you turn it on and you don't get really too far. You get through a couple of the intro scenes and once you start playing, it restarts on you. My Sega Dreamcast started doing this after a recent move and I had no idea what the issue was. After doing a lot of research, I came across a lot of different solutions, all very doable for my skill set. I'm certainly comfortable with breaking open any of my consoles at any time to fix it, but I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to challenge myself to find a solution that obviously works, but is super easy to do, doesn't take that much time, and it must not have been invasive to my system, meaning I don't want to do any soldering and replacing any parts. I didn't want to do any of that. So I did find one solution that fit that criteria and I gave it a shot on my Sega Dreamcast. Before we see how this worked out for me, make sure you click the like, subscribe, and bell notification icon so that you don't miss any future content for this channel. Let's see how it worked out for me and my Sega Dreamcast. Okay, so for the fix today, it's going to be a super simple, non-invasive fix where I want to open my Dreamcast and clean some contact pins with rubbing alcohol. So first, obviously, you need your Sega Dreamcast. Mine is looking amazing. Great condition Sega Dreamcast. Next thing you're going to need is some rubbing alcohol. This is the gamer collector's best friend, always in the cabinet. You really probably only need one or two Q-tips, but I have extra because from experience I know you never know how dirty it is on the inside. Got my Phillips screwdriver here, get those screws out. And I always have a flathead available just in case I have stubborn pieces that won't come undone. I've actually never opened any Dreamcast. So I need to see where these screws are. Alright, I see my 3 screw holes here. Let's get those open. Sometimes when opening older systems, the screws can be tricky. Sometimes they come out easy, but sometimes they can seem a little stuck or hard to remove. So keep that in mind if you're opening up any old gaming console. You don't want to strip the screws because it's really hard to use a tool to get a strip screw out because of a lot of these old system designs have these tiny deep holes where these screws are situated. So just keep that in mind. Be careful when trying to remove screws from an old console. Alright, let's see if I got them unscrewed enough. Shaking it hard and only one came out. Great. Starting off to a great start here, so I'm gonna try again, inspect, see where I messed up at. Give it some more unscrewing. Alright, I think that's good. Let's try it again. Shake it hard. So okay, I'm 2 for 3 at this point. The third one is not budging. I have no idea. Let's take a look in there. Not really seeing anything that would show signs that it's a stuck screw. Might just be user error, so let's try it again. Put a little pressure on there. Let's see what happens. Checking it out. I think it looks good enough. So let's go ahead and give it another shot, shall we? Shake it extra hard and nothing, 0. Give it the old hold and unscrew trick. All I'm doing here is just applying a little pressure from both ends to see if that will help. Shaking it hard and no dice. At this point, I'm starting to get a little frustrated because I can't figure out what is going on. It's definitely not giving me signs of a stripped screw. Turn a little to the right, bend back to the left. That typically helps get something unscrewed when we have a very stubborn screw, which we have right here. Bam, it worked, finally. All right, so that took a little bit longer than expected. It's all good though. We're back on course. Now I gotta get this side piece out here. It's a little hard to get out myself, so I'm gonna use my trusty flathead. This is why I always have one available when I'm taking apart a gaming system. Give it a gentle little pull out and don't use too much strength like I did and almost took my camera out. Okay, we're gonna do a gentle pull out here. Make sure you don't pull too hard. You don't want to break anything. This is a snapped in part. There we go. We got it out. We're moving forward. Oh, I realize at this point I left a CD in here, so let's get that out of here. Make sure you always safely secure your CDs. Now, what I want to do is get this top off, but I am noticing at this point that it is not budging. So that tells me I have made a mistake. I must have missed a screw. As you can see, I cannot get it open. So at this point, I'm going to double check, make sure it's just not stuck closed before I look for another screw using my trusty flathead. Not budging, not even a little bit. It's up, of course, I missed this one. At least it's an easy screw, it's not deep in the hole. Let's get this unscrewed real quick. All right, now we're moving. I'm going to open this again to take it off. The reason I'm opening it is so I can have insight into that CD section right there. There we go. We're gonna close this and I'm just gonna go ahead and sit this off to the side. I want to make sure none of my springs get messed up. So I'm gonna sit it off to the side. And beautiful. This actually looks pretty good on the inside. I'm seeing some screws here. Those are the ones I'm gonna go for. So I want to get that motherboard on the left out. So let's start working on it. Be very, very careful. Occasionally, depending on the system and the components inside, it can definitely hold a charge. So if you notice, I'm very careful on what I am touching now that I have it open. Of course, having long nails helps for this situation. Oh, and I realized, actually, we don't need to take that other screw out that I thought. But I'm pretty sure there's another screw somewhere. Gotta figure out where that other screw is at. I'm gonna try loosening this a little bit here. If I start to loosen one end, I'll be able to easily see what screw I'm missing since I only took out one and I know there's a second one somewhere. Let's check back here. There's got to be something. Where is that second screw? Ah, there it is. Found it. And that's just something I've learned over time, how to troubleshoot and figure out where these screws are. But be careful when you open up. You don't want to unscrew anything you don't have to. And for this, we want to just make sure we're focusing on the motherboard here. I'm going to take this out. All right. So we got the screws out, the area that we need to take out. All right, to leave everything to the right alone. Okay, you want to stay on that left side. That's what we're focusing on here. All right, so this area that I'm trying to pull out, it does have some pins involved, so we want to be careful. We don't want to just rip it out. You rip it out, you're going to have a lot more problems. All right, we're going to slowly pry this thing loose. That's why I like using my flathead. I can kind of keep my fingers from being in there, getting pinched, receiving any charge, electrical energy, but also I can gently apply pressure to remove pieces that I need to remove. This is proven to be a little bit stubborn, kind of like that screw earlier. So I'm just going around applying a little bit of pressure in different parts, trying to slowly loosen it up without causing any damage. For this part, you definitely want to move slower like I am doing. You'd rather move slower than rush through. You don't want to cause any permanent damage or any more issues to your system. Still giving me a little trouble here, but slow and steady wins the race. A little bit more pressure. You can't tell in the video, but it is starting to feel a little bit looser in my hands. I just got to think of a different vantage point here that I can stick my flathead in to loosen it up a little bit more. All right, as you can see, that front part starting to come up a little bit. Okay, gonna grip a little bit down at the bottom, still trying to avoid touching anything that might be holding electrical charge. All right, gonna try to pull there. There we go. Finally got it loose. I was so worried about that front part because those pins under there. And that's really what we're going for here. We need to see those pins. But before I can get in there, I need to get this back side off where the plug is. It's just a little snug. It's already been unscrewed. But just like we took our time with the first part, we need to make sure we can unhook the back part without causing any damage. Now, truthfully, for what we're doing here, there we go. If you're having a little bit of an issue with the back side, you could just slowly lift it up a little bit in the front and apply the rubbing alcohol to the pins. But for this, I wanted full visibility. This is my first time opening up the system. So I wanted to see a little bit of everything. I'm checking for dust and anything else that I see that's abnormal. Got my rubbing alcohol here. And so now what I want to do, I want to clean these pins with some rubbing alcohol.
That's the trick that I'm trying to do, trying to see if it works. So we're just going to dip a Q-tip in that rubbing alcohol. Try to do off to the side just in case you might drop something. You don't want to drop anything directly in your system. We got that on there, and we are going to generously rub this rubbing alcohol on these contact pins here. Anytime I use rubbing alcohol, I'm always very generous. It is a gaming collector's best friend. You always need to have this in your cabinet. It can solve a lot of issues, especially with cartridge-based systems. Rubbing alcohol is a great way to clean all of your cartridges that you have for whatever system. But outside of that, for a situation like this where I am trying to clean these contact pins in hopes that it will fix my reset issue, it is also very useful. I'm just trying to make sure here that none of that extra cotton piece gets stuck or left behind. So if you're using your Q-tips and you see some of that start to fray a little bit, make sure you pat it back like you just saw me doing. Once again, I'm being very generous with the rubbing alcohol. Now I'm going to take that over there and just taking a dry one just to make sure I wasn't too generous. I mean, overall it dries pretty quick, but I'm just trying to wrap up any loose ends here. Do a little dry dusting. Okay, and then I want to go in one more time for a good measure. I figured, hey, why not? You already have it open. Let's clean it again. All right, drying it with the other end of the Q-tip now. And I saw a little piece I wanted to hit again. You do not have to be this thorough. All right, let's go ahead and put the cap on. Once again, be careful about liquids around your systems, especially when you have it open. So safeties first. All right, let's get this bad boy put back together. Pretty easy to disassemble, even though this is my first time. Outside of having a stubborn screw, the system is pretty easy once you get it open. Remember, we want to get this back in place because we have those 2 screws. We need to screw this motherboard back down. We want to still be careful when snapping it back in place because we don't want to break anything. We want to be extremely careful around these contact pins. I don't want to bend or damage. And then we have a nice little camo. And here we have a nice little cameo from my beautiful locks. All right, still need to be very careful here. Make sure those pins are in the holes. They're not bent and everything's good. Let's look at that real close to make sure. You can push down a little bit. I'm gonna push it a little bit down. So without having those contact pins in place properly, it will not work. That was the focus of opening this Dreamcast up. All right, we're good to go. Doing a little double checks here. I accidentally grazed across the area I probably shouldn't touch with my hand, but so far so good. All right, let's get these screws back in here. We are almost to the finish line. I'm feeling great at this point. Feeling like a regular Tim Allen. Oh, I hate when that happens. Screws just falling in. Gonna hold a little bit support. Overall, looking at the entire Dreamcast on the inside, this unit is very, very clean. It's in great condition. Compared to other systems of mine that have opened, they did not look this great on the inside. This was well taken care of before I got it. All right, looking real good here, looking very secured. So we know what's next here. Let's get this lid back on. Be very careful. Anytime you have any of these lids, these CD lids, you want to make sure you are very, very careful to not mess up any of your springs. You don't want any stuck lids, stuck reset buttons. Now we're going to slowly turn this over and let's get these screws back in. Gonna start with that little surprise screw from earlier. Remember, you got to get that in before you snap that piece back in on the side. All right, let's get this all plugged back in here. It's actually super easy. I really think the complication of taking this system apart is very low. This is very beginner friendly if you never opened up a system before. It's definitely not as complicated as other systems. Make sure when you're screwing it back in, make sure it's tight, but once again, be very, very careful of stripping that screw. You never know when you have to open this again. Now let's get this piece here on the side. Perfect. All right. Just checking here. You always want to check to make sure your lid's open and good when we're good to go.
All right, we have gotten the Sega Dreamcast turned on. We're going through the load screens. Previously, when I was having this issue, the load screens were not a problem. They always loaded up. We always made it past this point. I really enjoy the graphics in this game. Like, does it look bad? Yes, but for the time period, revolutionary. We're still not in the clear yet. I've seen all this prior to me doing the fix. I was not having any restart issues this early. Really, pretty much any game I had tried in my Sega Dreamcast, the issues normally started after you get through all the intro screens and you try to start the gameplay. Around that time is when it would reset and restart. do this lengthy intro. Sonic is parkouring off of roofs. Alright, so now I'm curious to see what happens after this. Normally after this scene is when things would get very wonky for me in the Sega Dreamcast. It would normally restart some point after this, right around when the villain was introduced. We're gonna get to that part in a second here. Here we go. Police has villains surrounded. Chaos Zero is coming down with its creepy design. See-through body with a brain just floating around. I gotta check the rating on this game because I just realized they got the guns drawn. They are about to shoot. This can't be rated for kids. But who knows? It was a different time then. So we're doing good. Game is still going. It's looking good. Not giving any hiccups. Let's do a little gameplay here and just see what happens. Alright, I'm gonna spin around for a little bit, run around, and see if the Dreamcast turns off. Alright, let's go. Just gonna do a bunch of fast movement. Oh, of course, the villain is taking this a lot more serious than I am. So far, so good. It was not getting this far. Just to clarify, the reset issue did not allow me to play anything really past the intro. So this is much further than I've been able to get my Dreamcast to go for a minute now. Oh, my coins are gone. Not my coins, my rings. Alright, so I'm just gonna take him out just off of principle. He took all my rings, so I'm gonna beat him with no rings. I don't need them. Alright, still going strong. This is the furthest I have gotten my Sega Dreamcast to play for a minute. This issue has been going on for a minute. I had previously tried a few different things. I thought it was more so a cord issue, but this is the only fix I've done, and I've gotten this far. So I say this is a winner. The solution worked. It wasn't evasive. It's pretty cheap, and it was beginner friendly. I think anyone can do this fix. Well, that's all I got for y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.